Hello, and thank you for joining. We are MetaScale, the premier provider of big data solutions and services. Today we're going to dive into the topic of healthcare big data frameworks and analytics. We're going to get into a couple different solutions in various demonstrations, but for right now we're going to focus on the modernization of healthcare analytics. So your enterprise data hub and your enterprise data warehousing side of it. Throughout our demonstrations, we're going to focus on a couple key use cases. We're going to look from a provider's point of view, we're going to look from a payer's point of view, and we're also going to look at data from a vendor's point of view. Now, when looking at various big data solutions, it's very important to think about the business requirements and the benefits. One key attribute of going to a big data solution is that you will lower your overall IT costs. Additionally, we will enable more robust analytics capabilities in order to improve the quality and provide safer care, predict epidemics and cure diseases, and improve the quality of life and avoid preventable deaths. Now, some of the challenges that we will face stem from data volume being from disparate sources, data computational issues, and integration complexity. But we'll get into that in the next slide. When we look at the data landscape, there is data in all sorts of formats and shapes. We have structured data, we have semi-structured and unstructured data. Well, in order to get the maximum value in terms of our analytics, we have to draw from this in our data source. So the general framework that we propose is we have all this various information. It could be sensor-based information, could be information from the Internet of Things, structured, unstructured, and we're going to bring it into our EDH, which is our data hub. Once we have this data in the data hub, then we're going to focus on creating a subset in an EDW type environment where we can then pull the information down into a set where we can use it for analytics and processing. But once we have this data, it's important to be able to visualize it. We have to take this data and bring it to the user, because if the data just sits in your big data environment and your skilled knowledge workers can't use it, they're not going to be able to extract the most value out of it. So in order for us to focus on these points, we're going to kind of emphasize the flow of information here and talk about the supporting technologies. So now that we've talked a little bit about the general ecosystem, let's get into some more specifics. A lot of times we're going to have our data in a conventional data warehouse, such as a SQL server. Well, we have to take this information and we have to bring it into the Hadoop environment. And the way that we're going to do this is actually through the mechanism called Scoop. And we're going to show you exactly how easy it is to do this. So right now we're executing a script, and this script is basically creating the pipeline of information, and it's moving the data from our SQL server into our big data ecosystem. It's as easy as that. So now that we've talked a little bit about the Scoop mechanism, I just want to show individuals who may not have worked in a Hadoop environment before. So in the background, we actually see the SQL Server Management Studio. And in the SQL Server Management Studio, we have a database, and in this database, in our schema, we have a set of tables. Well, through the Scoop mechanism, we can identify a particular table of interest, and then we can execute the script, which would then move the data into our HDFS storage. So by executing this particular command here, we've specified our connection string, and we're now going to move the data into Hadoop. Okay. So while this script is running, it's taking the table and it's now piping it over. And what we're going to do is we're going to shift over to Hadoop itself, and we're going to now see the table actually appear. So the table that we were looking at was patient lab data, and now we can see in this setup that the table exists over in Hadoop. Now that we have the data in Hadoop, we have to bring it back into our framework for analytics. And there's a number of different tools and methodologies that you can look into towards doing this. But for today, what we're going to use for our EDW is we're going to use the PowerPivot option, which is a free add-on for Microsoft Excel. So Here we can actually see our data model set up, which is just taking all the various information from Hadoop and it's condensing it down into a set that we can use for analytics or machine learning. Now that we've talked about our enterprise data warehousing concepts, let's get into some analytics and some dashboarding. Now for our dashboarding tool, we're using Microsoft Excel and our PowerPivot function. This particular set of analytics we're focusing on is related to performance characteristics of the practice and the provider, whether it's a doctor, the nursing staff, or the operational staff. So if we want to kind of take a 20,000 foot view of the business, we can start by looking at patient counts by a particular condition. So knowing the gender, male, female, how many are coming in for diabetes, preventative care, health failure, asthma, congestive heart failure, etc. And we can continue to break this down into smaller measures that build up to these particular conditions. So this is a wonderful way for us to look at individual providers within a particular practice and understand how their data is contributing to the success of the overall organization. And of course, we can continue to break this down into deeper and deeper layers, and we can flex the mechanism in our dashboard so we can view pretty much any type of metric you would want to see. We are also able to integrate other types of information. So if we have certain benchmarks that we're trying to strive for from the healthcare organization, such as a certain admission rate of a particular type of service, such as preventative medicine, we can incorporate that directly in our EDW as well. Since the data is coming from a wide variety of sources, related to the care following the patient underneath a particular provider, there's a lot that we can do with the information, and we can build all the standard metrics and healthcare-specific analytics. In addition to dashboards specific to the provider, we can create summary-level executive KPI dashboards that kind of look at the practice in a holistic point of view. So in this particular dashboard, we're seeing patient counts by year, by practice and provider. So we can flex through our drill down capabilities, and we can look at specific practices, their providers, and understand where the patient count is developing. So with healthcare specific KPIs, this is no problem in a big data ecosystem and solution. Additionally, we can tie in some of our KPIs our goals and performance metrics. So in our bottom right hand side, we see particular metrics that we've developed, our goal, and whether or not we're reaching that goal for the overall organization. And in this particular environment, we're looking at a hospital's point of view of a patient's admission. And we're really kind of trying to create a 360 view of information related to the patient's stay. So in this first dashboard that we're showing, we have information related to admissions. So we have patient count by diagnosis, so certain types of diagnosis, where the patients are moving throughout a particular facility, what physicians are servicing these patients, and where a patient is at within their overall visit. A more interesting view is now building off of this with some of our unstructured, semi-structured, and diverse data sources. So we can now actually build off of this and take a view from the lab. Within the lab view, we now have information directly related to the facility that is performing the service and the specific provider, in addition to a patient's point of view in terms of what type of labs that they have being tested, what are the results of these labs, and it just creates a more immersive experience related to the data. On top of this, we can actually move into an insurance platform. We can now see information related to the insurance provider's name, what plan they have, dates related to the effective start and expiration date, address information. But the interesting part is in our data model itself, it's bringing all of this information into one source for your analytics. And finally, once we have this, we can even look at information at an even grander scale. So we can look at data across various demographics. And through the PowerPivot function in Microsoft Excel, we can now see geospatial information related to patient care across the globe. And this is just one demo showcasing how having your information in a big data ecosystem enables these type of analytics to be performed. Thank you very much for joining us today. We are MetaScale, the premier provider of big data services and solutions. We want to be your one-stop big data helpline. If you're interested in our products and services, please feel free to check us out at www.metascale.com or contact us through the telephone number or email address listed below. Thank you very much and have a nice day.